Chapter 3. Weather had checked her background. That person was also looking at her. He was about 1.85 meters tall, with a cold, handsome face and sharp eyes. This was Jiang, the young master of the Jiang family. He was 24 years old and had already taken over the Jiang family's business in Sea City. He was the legitimate leader of the Jiang family in Sea City. All of this was mentioned by old Madame Jiang and Yan during their conversation on the phone. Yan put down her teacup and stood up. She smiled, then nodded. "Hello, I'm Yan. Sorry to bother you." Jiang Sheng looked at her and retracted his gaze. He walked in and said, "Miss Shi, hello, I'm Jiang Sheng." He didn't intend to shake her hand or greet her. He only nodded his head slightly, his expression indeed very cold. Perhaps it was because someone had warned her in advance, or perhaps it was because Yan didn't care, but her expression didn't change at all. There was still a decent smile on her face. She greeted him again, "Young Master Jiang." Jiang Cheng's gaze fell on her face once again. However, he only paused for a few seconds before he shifted his gaze away. It was as if he was curious about her bearing, which did not seem like that of a country bumpkin, but he did not intend to probe further. "Miss Shi, you're too kind. Your grandmother's guest." He implied that he was not disturbing her. "Miss Shi, please take a seat." Yan sat down, and Jiang Cheng sat down on another sofa. "The family members aren't at the old residence, so they're being neglectful. Grandma and my sister went to visit an old friend who is sick, and they won't be back for at least 3 days. I'm busy with work, so I'm afraid I won't be able to receive Miss Shi personally. If Miss Shi needs anything, just look for the butler, Uncle Hai, and he'll make the necessary arrangements." Jiang Sheng was polite, but he was also cold. However, the family members weren't at the old residence. Didn't they say that there was another Master 5? Yan did not ask any further. She smiled and replied, "Okay." She did not say anything else, but he reminded her to look for the butler, Uncle Hai, if she needed anything. Jiang Sheng glanced at the old jong on the wall and said, "Dinner is usually at 6:30 p.m. There's still about half an hour left. Miss Shi, please sit here for a while. I have something to take care of in the study. Young Master Jiang, go and do what you need to do. Don't worry about me." Jiang Cheng nodded and got up, but he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he called a passing servant and said, "Go and call Uncle Hai over to have dinner together." "Yes, young master." Jiang Hai usually didn't come over to have dinner together. Although the servant was suspicious, she didn't ask any more questions. However, hearing Jiang Cheng's instructions, Yan once again lamented that the Jiang family of Sea City was meticulous and considerate in their work. There was no one else in the Jiang family's old mansion, and the 5th master of the Jiang family didn't go out often. It was indeed a little inappropriate for her and young Master Jiang to be the only ones having dinner later. However, it was her first time visiting, and they had met and greeted each other in the main building. It would be rude of young Master Jiang to leave her alone for dinner. It wouldn't be inappropriate or rude to call the housekeeper Jiang Hai along with her. Half an hour passed very quickly. In the dining room on the 2nd floor of the main building, the dining room was very big. There were 5 solid wooden tables, and they were seated at the main table. "Please take a seat, Miss Shi." Jiang Hai smiled kindly. Yan thanked him and took her seat. "I only heard from old Madame Jiang that Miss Shi doesn't mind eating. I don't know exactly what Miss Shi likes to eat, so I asked the kitchen to prepare something. If Miss Shi has anything you want to eat, just tell little Zhao and she will tell the kitchen tomorrow." Yan replied with a faint smile. "Okay. Thank you, Uncle Hai." Jiang Hai poured a glass of red wine for Jiang Cheng and half a glass of white wine for himself. He then asked Yan, "Miss Shi, do you want a drink?" "I'm fine, thank you." Jiang Hai was the one who served the entire meal. Other than saying please to Yan at the beginning of the meal, Jiang Cheng did not speak the entire time. His expression was cold and solemn, and his aura was a little oppressive. If it were any other young lady who had just met him for the first time, how could she be so calm and eat with him at the same table? Yet Yan had done so. This not only made Jiang Hai look at her, but it also made Jiang Sheng look at her slightly. In fact, he looked at her a few more times. After dinner, Yan left the main building and returned to the courtyard that old Madame Jiang had arranged for her. It took more than 10 minutes to walk from the main building to the courtyard, which saved her the time it would take to take a walk after dinner. When she returned, she went straight into the study room and took a book from the bookshelf that old Madame Jiang had prepared for her. After she left, Jiang Hai, who was accompanying Jiang Cheng for a walk after dinner in the courtyard, began to talk about her. This Miss Shi is quite different from what I imagined. Jiang Cheng did not respond to his words. Jiang Hai seemed to have gotten used to this, continuing. When I heard old Madame Jiang mention her in the past, I always thought that she was just an obedient country child. She must have had a simple and honest aura about her, but I feel that Miss Shi is completely different. I personally led Miss Shi into the house this afternoon. The Jiang family's mansion can be considered one of the best manors in Sea City. However, from the beginning to the end, there was not even the slightest change in Miss Shi's expression. It was not that Miss Shi was acting like she had never seen the world before. However, she was really too calm. It was as if in her eyes, the Jiang family's mansion was no different from the earthen walls and tile-roofed houses in her house. Jiang Sheng paused his footsteps and glanced at him. This was a rare response, which meant that he was a little interested in this topic. Jiang Hai continued. Of course, it's possible that this is because of her upbringing. After all, there's no rule that children from the countryside can't have an upbringing. It's just that this is the first time I've met a young lady who can eat with a young master on their first meeting and still maintain such a calm expression. Not to mention the young master's cold face. Even he, who was over 50 years old, was afraid when he looked at it. With the young master's overly outstanding appearance, what young lady would not be shy when she first saw him? However, Miss Shi was not affected by him at all. This was not something that could be achieved with good manners. Also, Miss Shi's temperament. She doesn't deliberately disguise it. Her every move gives people the feeling of a lady from a well-off family. If Miss Shi had been born into a family with some background, it would be understandable that she would have such a temperament. Yet, she comes from an ordinary peasant family. She was an orphan who grew up with just her grandmother. After her grandmother passed away, she lived alone for 6 years. Jiang Cheng could think of anything that Jiang Hai could think of. However, before Jiang Hai mentioned it, Jiang Cheng's thoughts were elsewhere, so he didn't think too much about Shi Yan. Hearing this, he asked Jiang Hai, "What do you want to say?" "I don't want to say anything, I'm just lamenting." Jiang Sheng frowned. "Uncle Hai." Jiang Hai was intimidated by his gaze, so he quickly said, "All right, I actually wanted to ask the young master if you need to carefully investigate Miss Shi's background. When I thought about how she was old Madame Jiang's savior, and how old Madame Jiang had to invite her over several times to be a guest, coupled with the fact that she was younger than young Miss by a month, she was just a child in my eyes. Suspecting a child like this seems to be making a mountain out of a molehill, so I hesitated. But eldest young master, the Jiang family in Sea City is not an ordinary family after all. You must not have the intention to harm others, and you must also have the intention to guard against others." Chapter 4. Cars that need to make way. After a few seconds of silence, Jiang Cheng said, "She is someone that grandmother personally came in contact with and approved of. I believe in my grandmother's ability to see through people. There's no need to look into it to avoid making grandmother angry. I naturally believe in old Madame Jiang's ability to see through people. I also feel that Miss Shi doesn't seem like a child with evil intentions, but the old residents now." Jiang Hai immediately shut his mouth when he saw Jiang Cheng's sharp gaze. "I misspoke." Jiang Cheng didn't continue on this topic. Instead, he said, "Grandmother knew her 3 years ago and stayed at her house for half a month to recuperate. I believe grandmother knows what kind of person she is. With grandmother's presence in the early years, the Jiang family in Sea City didn't decline after my grandfather passed away. Instead, it gradually became more prosperous than ever before. As you can see, grandmother is far more cautious than you and I. Since Miss Shi is grandmother's guest, we will treat her as a good host should. There's no need to think about anything else. Our Jiang family of Sea City will not do anything ungrateful. Even if a 19-year-old girl really did have other intentions, he would naturally keep an eye on her since she lived in the old house. He would be very incompetent if he allowed a young girl to do something unfavorable to the Jiang family right under his nose. Don't say such things in the future." "Yes, young master." Jiang Hai sighed in his heart. He actually liked Miss Shi quite a lot, but as the housekeeper of the Jiang family, it was his duty to maintain his rationality and avoid involving personal feelings at all times. However, since the eldest young master had already said so, he didn't mention it anymore. The eldest young master had taken over the family business at such a young age, even able to manage the business in an orderly manner. There was no need to mention his own ability. "Send someone to inform fifth uncle about Miss Shi's visit to the old residence." I was afraid that it wouldn't be good if Miss Shi were to bump into fifth master while walking around the old residence, so I personally went to Fifth Master's courtyard and informed him about it this afternoon. That's good. Why would Ruyer accompany grandmother out? Grandmother's old friend values rules the most. With Ruyer's character, how can she endure being restrained for even a few days? Jiang Hai felt that the solemn atmosphere from earlier had dissipated a little, so his entire person became a lot more relaxed. He smiled and said, Eldest young miss would have been bored staying at home. Although eldest young miss has a very lively character, she can still be well-mannered in front of the elders and won't be rude. Eldest young master doesn't have to worry too much. I'm not worried that she will be rude in front of the elders. I'm worried that she will feel bored if she keeps her personality in check. Forget it. Grandmother is old. She can be at ease with her company. Jiang Hai nodded with a smile and said, That makes sense. If young master is worried that the eldest miss will be bored, you can call her more often. The eldest miss has stuck to young master ever since she was young. She should be very happy if she receives a call from you. When Shiyan finished reading a book, it was already almost 11 p.m. She put the book back on the bookshelf, stretched her muscles, and went to her room to wash up and sleep. She didn't have the habit of playing with her phone before she went to sleep, so after washing up, she took out her phone to check the time, put it on the bedside table, and turned off the lights to sleep. The next day, Xiao Zhao brought her breakfast at 7:30 a.m. Shiyan had already done a simple morning exercise, showered, changed her clothes, and even washed and hung up her dirty clothes. She sat on the hanging chair on the balcony, reading for almost an hour. Knock, knock, knock. A knock came on the door. Shiyan closed the book and got up to open the door. Miss Shai, I hope I didn't disturb you. Before she could finish her sentence, Xiao Zhao saw Shiyan, who was already dressed neatly and holding a book in her hand. When she saw that the room was tidied up, her voice stopped. Miss Shi, do you get up very early? Shiyan smiled. I usually get up at 6. Adds by Pub Future. 6? Then aren't you very hungry now? It's all my fault. I should have asked you about your schedule last night and brought you breakfast earlier. It's okay. I'm not very hungry yet. I just got up early. Breakfast time is usually between 7:30 and 8. That's good. I thought I was late bringing you breakfast. Breakfast is taking Palace downstairs. Do you want to go downstairs to eat now, Miss Shi? Yes. I'll put the books in the study for a while. Little Zhao wanted to say that she could put them in the study or temporarily put them in the room, but before she could say anything, Shiyan took the books and went to the study. Looking at Shiyan's back as she went to the study, and then the neatly arranged room, little Zhao sighed in her heart. Miss Shi was too well behaved. She even had a bit of an obsessive-compulsive disorder when compared to the eldest Mrs. Messy room. They were two extremes. However, Miss Shi was very similar to the eldest young master in this regard. Just looking at the tidiness of the room, one could think of one word: rigorous. After breakfast, Shiyan asked little Zhao, Do you have a spare car at the moment? Little Zhao said as he tidied up the cutlery. I have to ask about this. Is Miss Shi going out? Yes, I'm going to buy something. When I came yesterday, I checked. It's not easy to take a taxi at the door. If Miss Shi needs anything, you can tell me directly. I'll get someone to buy it or send it to your door. You don't have to make a special trip. Shiyan smiled and said, No need. Sea City has changed a lot in the past few years. I'll take this opportunity to go out and get familiar with it. I'll be living in this city for the next 4 years after all. Then I'll accompany Miss Shi. I've lived in Sea City for more than 10 years and am very familiar with this place. I can be your guide. Won't it interfere with your work? No. My recent job is to take care of you. You're the first priority. Pensioners will be able to buy these electric cars. See prices. All right, then I'll trouble you to ask if there are any cars available. It doesn't matter if there aren't. I saw some on the way here yesterday. You can get a taxi after walking for about half an hour. Okay, I'll go and ask. But don't worry, Miss Shi. The old residence usually has a lot of free cars, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Half an hour later, the two of them got into the car. When Jiang Hai found out that Shiyan was going out, he sent an especially reliable driver. Xiao Zhao sat in the front passenger seat, while Shiyan sat in the back seat. She was carrying a small messenger bag on her back, sitting upright with her hands crossed on her lap. She had no intention of taking out her phone to play, which amazed Xiao Zhao. It was rare for a young woman to sit so upright in a car. Besides putting her phone into her bag when she went out, Miss Shi had not touched her phone at any other time. It was very unlike the style of a modern young woman. The key was that she did not look at her phone, and her gaze did not wander around. She kept looking straight ahead. Did she not feel bored? Miss Shi, where do you want to go? Let's go to the mall first. I have some things to buy. Okay. As they were talking, the car passed by the stone road that Jiang had walked on yesterday. A car came in front of them. Seeing that car, little Zhao quickly said to the driver, "Pull over." Then she turned around and apologized to Jiang. "Miss Shi, I'm sorry. Master Wu's car is in front. We have to pull over and wait for Master Wu's car to pass first." Jiang wanted to say that with such a wide lane, two cars could easily pass by at the same time. However, looking at the expressions on little Zhao and the driver's faces, she didn't say anything. "It's okay. Do we need to say hello to your Master Wu?" Little Zhao quickly said, No, we'll wait for Master Wu's car to pass by first." Jiang nodded with a smile. Looking through the car window, she could see that the driver was a man in his 30s. However, Jiang's intuition told her that this wasn't the so-called Jiang family's Master Wu. He was probably sitting in the back seat and could not see anyone from this angle. Wasn't it said that 5th Master Jiang had poor health and seldom went out to rest in the courtyard? Chapter 5. Shopping at the Mall. Perhaps she could see Jiang's confusion, so Xiao Zhao said, "The 5th Master's health is not good, so he will occasionally go to the hospital for a checkup. However, the 5th Master does not go out very often. Usually he will invite the attending physician directly to the old residence. The 5th Master seldom even goes out to the courtyard. A situation like today, where we meet the 5th Master in the old residence, only happens every few months." Jiang turned around and glanced at the car that had already gone far away. It was not even 9 o'clock in the morning and they were already going to the hospital for a checkup. So that's how it is. Seeing that Jiang's expression was as usual, not seeming to have the slightest bit of curiosity, little Zhao could not help but look at her a few more times. Didn't Miss Shi wonder why they had stopped and waited for the 5th Master to pass through when they could have passed through at the same time? Didn't she wonder why they hadn't rolled down the car window to greet him when they met him? If it were anyone else, they would have died of curiosity. Miss Shi was simply too calm. She was only 19 years old. This temperament. It should be said that she was worthy of being valued by the old lady. She was outstanding indeed. She didn't continue to dwell on this topic. With lingering fear, she looked through the mirror at the car that had gone far away. After exhaling lightly, little Zhao asked, "Is it convenient to ask Miss Shi what you want to buy at the mall?" Seeing Jiang look up, little Zhao explained with a smile, "There are a lot of large malls in Sea City. I'd like to know what you want to buy so that I can select the right malls." "There's nothing inconvenient in you asking me. My home in the countryside doesn't have anything special, and the journey to Sea City was quite far, so it was inconvenient to bring too much luggage. So I didn't prepare a welcome gift for old Madame Jiang in advance. I planned to go to the mall to take a look." "A gift?" Little Zhao never expected that she would go out early in the morning just to buy a gift. Jiang smiled elegantly. "It's my first time visiting. It's rude to come empty-handed, and it's already very rude of me not to prepare it in advance." Little Zhao looked at her and sighed once again in his heart. Not only was Miss Shi an extraordinary person, but she was also very considerate at such a young age, even without the reminder of an elder. She really didn't look like a person who had never seen the world apart from the countryside. It was basic courtesy to prepare a welcome gift when visiting a guest for the first time. However, considering that Miss Shi was an orphan living in the countryside and might not be financially well off, the old lady certainly did not want Miss Shi to spend money. Although old Madame Jiang did not remind her to pay attention to this matter, as the person that old Madame Jiang had arranged to take care of Miss Shi temporarily, she had to mention this to Miss Shi tactfully. Hence, Xiao Zhao said, "Actually, old Madame Jiang is very happy that Miss Shi came as a guest. You don't have to especially prepare a welcome gift. You agreeing to come as a guest was the best gift for old Madame Jiang." Jiang smiled faintly and replied, "I don't have to prepare a welcome gift. I just want to go shopping on the way. If there are suitable gifts, then I will buy them. If there aren't, I won't." Even though she said so, Xiao Zhao still felt that she had especially come to buy a welcome gift. In that case, she would just choose a mall with a lower price and bring Miss Shi there. With a single glance, Jiang could tell what she was thinking, but she did not say much. A gift came from the heart, not the price. Furthermore, she planned to spend more time familiarizing herself with the city. She was not going to go home after shopping at a mall, and she would choose her gift very slowly. About half an hour later, their car stopped in the underground parking lot of a relatively low-priced mall. The driver waited in the car while Xiao Zhao accompanied Jiang to take the elevator into the shopping mall. In the first shopping mall, Jiang took a casual glance at the first floor, but did not stop at any of the stores. She went up to the second floor, where it was the same. She took a casual glance and went up to the third floor, then the fourth floor and the fifth floor. It took them only about half an hour to walk around the entire shopping mall. There was no harvest. Little Zhao did not know how to express her feelings at this moment. Logically speaking, a person like Miss Shaw, who came from the countryside, would not have seen such a big shopping mall. Even if she did not buy anything, she should not have been so calm after entering the mall. Shouldn't humans be filled with curiosity towards novel things? She had lived in Sea City for more than 10 years. Even if she didn't have anything to buy, she would still want to try this or that after entering the mall. Wasn't shopping in a girl's nature? She didn't see such a thing in Miss Shi at all. Moreover, she also saw that the reason Miss Shi didn't enter the shop was not because of her inferiority complex. She really just didn't like anything. Don't ask her how she could tell. She just had that kind of intuition all of a sudden. Without saying much, Xiao Zhao only asked, "Miss Shi, are we going to the next shopping mall now?" "Not for the time being. On the way here, I saw a commercial street not far away. There are many shops at that place, so I plan to go shopping there." There was indeed a commercial street nearby. Just as Shiyan was about to tell Xiao Zhao that if she got tired of shopping, she could wait for her in the car, Xiao Zhao's phone suddenly rang. "I'm sorry, Miss Shi. I have to take this call," Xiao Zhao said as she picked up the phone. She didn't know what the other party said, but her expression had changed. "What's wrong?" Shiyan asked. "I'm sorry, Miss Shi. Something happened at home. I'm afraid I can't go shopping with you. Should I send you back first, or would you like me to find someone to accompany you? I'm really sorry, It's okay. If you have something to do, go ahead. I can go shopping by myself?" "But you..." Shiyan smiled faintly. "It's okay. I'm old enough, so how can I get lost? Send me the driver's number. I'll buy some good things and call him to pick me up." "Are you really okay by yourself?" "I am. The driver is nearby, so if there's anything, I'll call him." Then be careful, Miss Shi. I'll rush back to find you as soon as I'm done." Without waiting for Shi Yan's reply, she turned around and ran out of the mall. It was obvious that she was very anxious. However, 2 minutes later, Shi Yan received a text message from Xiao Zhao. It had been a call from the driver. Shi Yan was shopping much slower at the mall. She was not shopping, instead looking at the city that had changed so much. It had been an hour since she had finished shopping. She was no longer empty-handed, carrying a few bags. She did not call the driver immediately. She had just searched on her phone and found a bookstore nearby, planning to buy some books. 2 hours later, she came out of the bookstore. Yes, Shi Yan had spent more time shopping in the bookstore than she did in the mall. She had 2 large bags in her hands, and there were about 20 books in the bags. Even though Shi Yan was strong, she couldn't lift them all. She walked out of the bookstore and called the driver. She stood at the entrance of the bookstore and waited for the driver to come pick her up. The driver quickly drove the car over. There was no parking here, so they could only stop temporarily. The driver didn't get out to help her, and Shi Yan put the things she bought into the trunk. Just as she put the things away, a car drove past them in the opposite lane. A woman in her 40s was sitting in the back seat of the car. She was looking out of the window when she saw Shi Yan, who was putting things in the trunk. Her expression changed slightly. The car drove past them, and soon there was no one there. The woman quickly said to the driver, "Turn around and go to the other side. Quick!" Chapter 6. Did not look like a new customer. In a restaurant. After driving for about 800 meters, they finally found the lane to turn from. When they turned around, the car that was originally parked in front of the bookstore had already left. After driving past the bookstore, the person in the back seat did not speak for a while. The driver could not help but ask, "Madam, did you see an acquaintance just now?" "Maybe I saw it incorrectly." "Then now, let's go back to the office." Meanwhile, Shi Yan did not know that someone had seen her. After getting into the car, the driver asked her, "Miss Shaw, it's time to eat. Have you eaten?" Shi Yan took out her phone and looked. It was almost 12:30 p.m. "Not yet. I was only focused on shopping. What about you, Master Liu? Have you eaten?" "Yes, I've eaten. I'll be waiting for you." "Miss Shi, do you want to find a restaurant or go back to eat?" "If you want to go back to eat, I'll call the kitchen and have them prepare it now, so that you can eat it by the time you get back." "Let's find a restaurant nearby. I want to walk around for a while." Wanting to walk around for a while was just an excuse. It would be too troublesome to ask the Jiang family's kitchen to prepare food after mealtime. Then I'll look for a restaurant. Miss Sure, do you have anything you want to eat? Or something you usually avoid? No, I'm fine with anything. After a while, the car stopped in front of a restaurant. Jiang asked the driver if he wanted to eat again. He said it was not necessary, so Jiang entered the restaurant alone. It was a very ordinary restaurant, not considered special on this street filled with restaurants. Master Liu must have considered that Jiang came from the countryside. He was afraid that she would not be used to going to a restaurant that was too high-end, so he especially chose this restaurant. The restaurant was ordinary, but there were many customers. It was clear that it was a restaurant that was very popular with their customers. Master Liu was actually a little worried that Jiang did not have the money to eat in the restaurant. He thought about how she had bought so many things just now. However, she should still have enough money for a meal, so he did not ask further. Otherwise, if he had asked, it might have hurt the little girl's self-esteem. Jiang walked into the restaurant and went up to the second floor. She chose a seat by the window and sat down. After entering the restaurant, she did look around curiously, nor did she seem confused during her first time in this kind of restaurant. She went straight up to the second floor. The waitress brought the menu, and she thanked her with a smile as she took it. She ordered 2 dishes and a soup. They were all specialty dishes of the restaurant. They weren't the most expensive, but they were some of the more pricier dishes on the menu. Wait a moment, the dishes will be served soon. The waitress took the menu and left. After taking a few steps, she couldn't help but turn her head to look at the girl sitting by the window. She was clearly dressed very simply, so why did she feel that this girl's temperament was special? Just by sitting there, she looked like a painting. Could this be the advantage of having good looks? However, she had worked in the shop for so long and had seen many beautiful girls. Why did she feel that this girl was so eye-catching? Jiang did not know what the waitress was thinking. While waiting for the dishes, she picked up the glass of lemonade that the waitress had just poured and took a sip. It was rare for her to take out her phone and open it. She only took a glance at the screen before the screen turned black, and she placed it on the table. With one hand supporting her chin and the other holding the glass of water, she did not drink the lemonade in the glass. Instead, she held the glass with one hand and looked out of the window at the bustling street. It had been almost 10 years since she had come into contact with such a bustling street market. Life in the countryside was simple and quiet. The only city that could be considered prosperous was the county where she went to school. However, she usually stayed in school and would occasionally go back to her small farmhouse during the holidays. Even though she went to the county for 3 years, for middle school and high school, she did not walk around the area properly. Although she said that she missed the prosperity of the city, she actually did not. She did not have a lively personality, but she felt that people would get tired of living such a peaceful and simple life for a long time. Soon the waitress served the dishes. The waitress was not old, so she was a very talkative person. When she served the dishes to Jiang, she smiled and said, "You went straight to the second floor without asking a customer. It's not your first time here, right?" In fact, the waitress only asked this because she thought that if this eye-catching girl in front of her had really been to the restaurant, it would have been impossible for her not to remember. However, this girl did not look like a stranger. After she entered the restaurant, she went straight to the second floor, without even asking whether the second floor belonged to their restaurant. After she received the menu, she casually flipped through to the 2 dishes and 1 soup that she had ordered. They were all the signature dishes of the restaurant. She did not even ask what the signature dishes of the restaurant were. "Indeed, it's not my first time here. I came here once before with someone a long time ago." "A long time ago?" "I've been working in the restaurant for almost 5 years, but I've never seen you before." As the waitress said this, she smiled in embarrassment. "You might not believe me when I say this, but I feel that if you were a customer, and I saw you in the restaurant, no matter how long it had been, I probably wouldn't have forgotten you." Seeing Jiang look over with a smile, the waitress added, "You are too beautiful." Actually, what the waitress had wanted to say was, "You have a very special temperament that makes it difficult to forget just by looking at you." After thinking for a while, she felt that it was inappropriate, so she changed her words. "Thank you." Jiang smiled slightly. She continued, "The last time I came to your restaurant was 10 years ago. No wonder. I told you I hadn't seen you before. The dishes are all here. I wish you a happy meal." "Thank you." At the same time, in a private room on the second floor of the restaurant, another conversion was taking place. "Sumu, you're the young master of the Su family. Why is it that every time you treat me to a meal, it's always at this restaurant? Is it really okay to be so stingy?" The person called Sumu was in a suit and tie. He took off his suit and placed it on a chair before pulling the chair out and sitting down. It was a very simple action, but exceptionally elegant. He looked at the person who spoke and said calmly, "I didn't say that I wanted to treat you to a meal." "Sumu, it's meaningless if you say that. We grew up in the same pair of pants. You can't even bear to treat me to a meal that costs more than 200 yuan. As the man spoke, Guzi pulled out a chair and sat down. "Speaking of which, Sumu, you don't come to this restaurant often because you like its dishes, right? No matter how delicious the dishes are, you'll get tired of them after eating them too many times. Moreover, the dishes in this restaurant are pretty average. Be honest, is there a story between you and this restaurant that I don't know about? Have you ever come here with someone special?" The man gave a sly smile, and Sumu gave him a faint look. "All right, I'll shut up. But Sumu, judging from your reaction, I'm right, aren't I? Did you really come here with someone special? Who? Do I know them? We grew up together, so I should know everyone you know, but I can't think of anyone like that." "Han Yu, if you still want to eat, be quiet." All right, I'll be quiet." Han Yu crossed his legs and looked around the ordinary-looking private room, saying in confusion, "Sumu, you've liked this restaurant for more than 10 years, right? Why don't you buy it? If you bought it and ran it on your own for so many years, chain stores would probably have opened all over the country. How could it still be so shabby?" Sumu didn't answer him. The dishes were served very quickly. "Young Master Su, I say it's fine if you come to this restaurant often, but why do you always order these dishes? Don't you get tired of them?" "I don't." All right, I can't beat you. You're already so old. What's the point of fighting with a restaurant if you don't find a girlfriend?" "What does this have to do with whether or not I find a girlfriend? Also, I'm only 25 years old." Chapter 7. Was forced to eat melon again and again. Shi Yan's eating speed was neither fast nor slow. In about half an hour, she was almost done eating. She put down her chopsticks and took out a tissue to wipe her hands and the corners of her lips. It was a very normal action, but very pleasing to the eyes. Not far away, a few girls walked out of the private room. One of the girls happened to see this scene and pursed her lips in disdain. She really saw these kinds of pretentious people everywhere. "Wanru, what are you looking at?" "Nothing. Let's go." "Then where are we going? Are we going shopping, or are we going to sing?" "Wanru, didn't you say last time that you were going to treat us to drinks and karaoke? Since we still have time, why don't we go today?" The girl named Wanru looked gentle and weak. When she heard the girl's words, her expression froze slightly. "Who goes to karaoke in the middle of the day? Let's go later." "Then we'll go tonight?" "Wanru, let's go tonight. After the college entrance exam, we're all bored to death. It wasn't easy for us to get out of the house. I don't want to go home so early." "That's right, Wanru. You don't know how hard it was for me to go out just this once. I've already finished my college entrance exam, but my mom still forces me to study every day. I don't want to go home so early either." The girls were all talking at once. The delicate girl named Wanru forced out a smile. "All right, then let's do it tonight." "Wanru, I knew you were the best. You treat us to dinner and karaoke. Every time you come out, you spend money." "What's the big deal? Wanru doesn't lack for money, so she won't mind." Wanru is still the best. Her family gives her a lot of pocket money, unlike us, who only have a fixed amount. It's almost enough for her to eat and buy some daily necessities. She has to spend it sparingly, or else she'll go hungry. Since we're only going to karaoke at night, where should we go to kill time in the afternoon? Why don't we find a cafe to sit down in? Wanru, what do you think? "I still have something to do at noon. You guys go ahead. I'll contact you guys later." "Huh? You're going home?" "I have something to do." All right. Then you go home first. We'll contact you later. It's a deal. You're not allowed to lose contact then. Since you have something to do, we'll leave first. Mua, I love you." The few girls chatted and laughed as they left. As they left, they blew kisses at Wanru. However, no one waited for her. After a while, she was left standing there alone. Shi Yan found this scene very interesting. Were all the girls in the city so interesting these days? However, she saw the girl named Wanru look over at her and glare fiercely. Shi Yan didn't know what to do. Their loud voices had attracted the attention of the people around them. There were quite a lot of people looking at them, so why was the girl only glaring at her? Could it be that she looked especially easy to glare at? It seemed that it was better to eat fewer melons in the future. Shi Yan, who had just decided that she would eat fewer melons, was about to leave the restaurant when she suddenly stopped in her tracks. "Young Master Su, where are we going now? Let me treat you to a drink." Han Yu and Sumu walked out of the private room. Drink in the middle of the day? Are you serious? I'm just kidding. Why are you so serious? I'm just trying to lighten up the atmosphere when I see your serious face. However, Sumu suddenly stopped and looked in a certain direction of the restaurant. Han Yu followed his line of sight, puzzled, but he did not see anything. What's wrong? Did you see someone you know? Sumu frowned slightly and retracted his gaze. It's nothing. Let's go. Where are we going? Han Yu asked, jogging after him. To the company. Ah, then I won't disturb you. I'd better go and fool around with my scoundrel friends. The two of them went downstairs as they spoke. Yan came out of her hiding place, but she could no longer be seen. She sighed softly, about to leave, when she heard a voice. Why are you here? Didn't I tell you not to do this kind of work where I eat? If my friends see you like this, I won't be able to lift my head. Yan turned around to look at the source of the sound. It was actually another familiar face. Not far behind her was the bathroom, and in front of the bathroom stood a young girl and a middle-aged woman wearing the restaurant's waitress uniform. The woman's face showed that she had experienced many changes in life, but it was not difficult to see that she had been a beauty when she was young. The young girl was the one the groups of girls had called Wanru just now. I just found a job. I didn't know that you would come here to eat with your friends. Wanru, Mom didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose? Don't you say that every time? I don't want to listen to your nonsense anymore. Give me the money. Didn't I just give you 500 yuan yesterday? You spent it all? Wanru, our family isn't well off. You can't spend money so extravagantly. You have to save it. You're still young, and if you develop a habit of spending money extravagantly now, it will only harm you in the future. The conditions are not good. The conditions are not good. What else can you say other than that? Who caused the conditions to not be good? If I didn't have a mother like you, who got pregnant out of wedlock, would I be living like this? Do you know how I lived in school, so that others would not look down on me as a bastard without a father? It's all because of you. The woman sobbed softly. I'm sorry. I won't listen to your nonsense. Give me the money. The woman looked at her and took out money from her pocket, sobbing and trembling. She was about to take out 3 bills and hand them to the girl, but the girl snatched them all. Wanru, those 800 yuan are our living expenses for half a month. You can't take all of it. Give half to Mom, okay? The girl ignored her, knocking her to the ground and running away. She ran in Shiyan's direction, her expression changing when she saw Shiyan standing there. Shiyan ignored her, walking past her to the bathroom. Maybe it was because of Shiyan's temperament, but it made the girl feel like she was different from her. The girl was afraid of offending someone she shouldn't have, so she didn't dare to scold her for eavesdropping. She simply glared at Shiyan's back and left. Are you all right? Shiyan walked over and helped the woman who was pushed to the ground get up, all while sobbing. She wasn't someone who liked to eavesdrop. However, if she had left just now, it would have been discovered by the mother and daughter who were arguing. The person involved in this argument probably didn't want to be seen, so she hadn't come out yet. She had planned to wait for them to leave before exiting. However, she didn't expect that the girl would leave from her direction. To make the person involved less awkward, she could only pretend to come to the bathroom. She walked to the bathroom door, not intending to stop. However, she saw that the woman's hand was broken and bleeding, so she hesitated for a moment before returning to help her up. I'm fine, thank you. Sorry for making a fool of myself. The woman was obviously very sad, but she did not forget to squeeze out a smile in thanks. It could be seen that she was very well behaved. Do you need me to send you to the hospital to have a look? She looked a little seriously injured. The woman shook her head. No need, no need. Thank you. Shiyan did not insist any further. She simply looked at the work card on her clothes. Xuan Luying? That was a good name. After coming out of the restaurant, Shiyan did not leave immediately. She took out her phone and searched for the nearest pharmacy. After going to the pharmacy, she returned to the restaurant's front desk. Hello? Hello. Are you the customer who was eating in the restaurant just now? Did you leave something behind? Even the cashier at the front desk remembered Shiyan. It was not hard to remember her looks and temperament, especially since she came to eat alone. No. There is a waitress called Xuan Luying upstairs who is injured. She asked me to buy her some medicine. I have something to do and have to leave immediately, so can you pass it to her for me? Sure, I'll get someone to deliver it to her right away. Thank you so much for coming to eat and helping out our colleague. You're welcome. It was nothing. Chapter 8. was as beautiful as a painting. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. During that time, Jiang stayed in the Jiang family's old mansion in Sea City. She either read books in the small courtyard where she lived, or went out for a walk. However, she didn't go far. Occasionally, she would take a book to the small pavilion beside the lotus pond and read. She didn't go to the main building to eat again. It was Xiao Zhao who sent her to the small courtyard. Therefore, she didn't see the young master of the Jiang family these last 2 days. She didn't even see Jiang Hai very often. The person she saw the most was Xiao Zhao, who was in charge of taking care of her food and living. It was evening, and a sunset filled the sky. Jiang sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the study, reading a book. She leaned against the tatami mat in front of the window, and because she was at home, her hair was not tied up. It was just hanging loosely. Her soft ink-black hair was tied up, and the ponytail reached her waist. It hung loosely, and when she sat on the floor again, it scattered all over the floor. The door to the study was not closed, so as soon as little Zhao arrived, she saw the scene in the study. The girl was dressed in a simple white t-shirt with black pants. She leaned back against the sofa and sat on the carpet, her knees bent. As her black hair scattered, she held a book with both hands and focused all her attention on it. The sunset glow fell on her through the floor-to-ceiling glass window, the scene gentle and containing a soul-stirring beauty. Little Zhao was completely rooted to the spot. She was deeply attracted by this scene and could not regain her senses for a long time. It was only when Jiang raised her eyes and looked over that she saw her. "Sister Zhao, is there something you need from me?" Xiao Zhao finally regained her senses. Although old Madame Jiang was suppressing them, very few people in the Jiang family's old residence dared to privately discuss the guests that old Madame Jiang personally invited over. Still, there were always people who could not help but gossip. They might not have any bad intentions. They just couldn't help but secretly discuss it. She had overheard it by accident. They said that Miss She came from the countryside and was an orphan. She would not be used to coming to such a big family. In front of others, Miss She would be cautious and at a loss. If other guests came to visit and Miss She happened to be present, she might even embarrass old Madame Jiang and the Jiang family. To put it bluntly, some of them were saying that Miss She was not presentable. How was this person in front of them, who could casually sit there like a beautiful painting, not presentable? How many people could compare with her looks and temperament? Those who were discussing it in private had never seen Miss She with their own eyes. As soon as they saw her, they would definitely not have such thoughts. Speaking of this, some people were even secretly guessing at old Madame Jiang's intention of bringing Miss She to the old house. Miss She was old Madame Jiang's savior and was very much liked by her. Old Madame Jiang was not someone with a good family background, and Miss She was an orphan and a young girl. Old Madame Jiang had been urging the young master, who had been single for the past 2 years, to find a partner. Forget about the others. Even little Zhao could not help but have this thought. However, unlike the others, who thought that Jiang was not worthy of the young master of the Jiang family, little Zhao did not think so. Of course, no matter what guesses and thoughts she had in her heart, little Zhao did not show it, nor did she talk too much about these things. Seeing that little Zhao was in a daze and could not speak, Jiang smiled and asked, "Did you bring dinner over for me?" Her pleasant voice was indescribably gentle, making people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze, simply by listening to her voice. There were countless times where little Zhao had lamented in her heart that it was a kind of enjoyment to be in the same space as Miss She. "No, old Madame Jiang and the eldest miss have returned. They asked me to invite you over." "Grandma Jiang is back?" Jiang asked, but she did not look surprised. The eldest young master of the Jiang family had said that they would be back in about 3 days. Today was the 3rd day, so if they were not back tonight, they would be back by tomorrow morning. "Yes, she's back. She's waiting for you in old Madame Jiang's courtyard." Jiang closed the book and stood up. "Sister Zhao, wait for me for 3 minutes. I'll tidy up a little." 3 minutes meant 3 minutes. She put the book back on the bookshelf and returned to her room. When she came out of the room, her hair was tied up and she was carrying a few gift bags in her hands. It didn't take more than 3 minutes. "Why did Miss Shi tie up her hair? You looked so good just now." Looking at the things in Yan's hands, Xiao Zhao knew that this was a greeting gift prepared by Yan. She did not ask further, only saying, "Let me help you." Yan did not refuse, placing 2 of the gift bags into Xiao Zhao's hands. At her earlier comment, Yan chuckled and said, "Am I not pretty just like this?" Xiao Zhao raised her head to meet her smiling face, and once again her beauty exploded. She shook her head like a rattle drum. No, 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 of course not. No matter what, Miss Shi looks good. She only felt that the Miss Shi who had her hair scattered had more feelings than the Miss Shi who had her hair tied up in a high ponytail. With a faint smile, Shi Yan said, "Let's go." When they went downstairs, she asked little Zhao, "How is your brother?" Little Zhao had returned from the hospital to resume work. Shi Yan knew that her brother had been in a car accident when she left the mall that day. It was not serious, but the injury would take 100 days to heal. He had to recuperate for a period of time. He's much better now. He'll be able to get out of the hospital after some time. Thank you for your concern, Miss Shi. That's good. Old Madame Jiang's courtyard was next door. It was only a 2-minute walk from the courtyard. Xiao Zhao led Shi Yan inside. "Xiaoyan, come here. Come here and show Grandma Jiang. You've grown into a big girl after 3 years. You're getting more and more beautiful." As soon as she entered the door, she heard old Madame Jiang's joyful voice. In the living room, old Madame Jiang was sitting on a specially made big chair. Beside her stood a woman in her 50s, and on the sofa sat a girl that was 18 or 19 years old. Old Madame Jiang was kind-looking, but she did not lose her dignity. The woman standing beside her had a smile on her face, and it was also a very kind face. The girl sitting on the sofa had a beautiful face, and her eyes were beautiful and lively. She stared at Shi Yan, full of curiosity as she sized her up. "Grandma Jiang," Shi Yan nodded with a smile. The old lady was so happy that her eyes narrowed into slits. She waved at her. "Xiaoyan, come here, come here." Only then did she see the thing in Shi Yan's hand. "Why are you still bringing things?" "It's my first time visiting. This is the greeting gift I have prepared for you, the 2 ladies, and Miss Jiang." The greeting gift she prepared was only for the ladies. As a girl, it was somewhat inappropriate for her to prepare a greeting gift for the men of the Jiang family. The journey here was rather far, so it was inconvenient to bring too much luggage. I only went to buy it after I came here. I hope Grandma Jiang won't mind. Why would I mind? I'm more than happy. You said you would come here as soon as you came to the city, so why did you prepare a greeting gift? The woman next to the old lady took it and smiled at Shi Yan. "Miss Shi, you're too kind." At this moment, Jiang Rui, who was sitting at the side, also stood up in joy. "There is actually one for me. Thank you, Xiaoyan." Seeing Shi Yan look at her, Jiang Rui smiled and said, "I've heard grandmother mention you more than once, and I've finally met you today. It's too strange to directly call you by your name, so do you mind if I call you Xiaoyan?"